And welcome back to Beyond the First Response. It's Christy Lister here. You see that I'm missing someone? Sierra, my co-host. She's actually out in Nevada today, speaking on mental wellness and to a bunch of policemen. So good luck to her. I can't wait to hear about it. But I have a special guest that I just had to get on. I've known her for quite a few years. Nancy Vallee, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks, Christy. How are you?
Good. Currently, you hold a position as a realtor.
Yes, I'm a
Uh,
realtor.
that is the job that you somewhat retired into.
Yes. Yes, that was the fun. That was my retirement fund.
Right.
Yes.
But
Yes.
prior to that, it was 21 years, 20 is that
21 years as a 911 telecommunicator, police dispatcher.
yeah, but
Yep.
back then it kind of started as you were basically a telephone, the old telephone line people plugging it into the next call. That's how it looked. It wasn't until right before you retired that they finally acknowledged that dispatchers are in fact first responder.
Yes. We finally got the cred that we deserved just a couple of years before I retired, 3, 4 years before I retired. They finally figured out that we are more educated. We stay on the phone. It's not like we get an address and hang up.
Right.
We deliver a service and we keep our officers safe.
Yeah,
So, and EMT as well, our EMD staff, everybody. That's our job.
it
So,
is. And you guys do it extremely well.
thank
And
you.
not necessarily given the right tools, although again, that's coming around now, but not having the right tools or acknowledgement on how to process what you in fact were hearing on the other line.
Yes. And we had the same stigma as the officers and stuff. Just buck it up, buttercup, and it'll all be fine. Just stop it down in there in that heart and don't think about it and don't talk about it.
Yeah. And that's got to be extremely tough not processing it.
Yes, I mean, to come home and not be able to really delve into it, although we tried somewhat in the center, in the dispatch center, we had those ties and we were able to talk a little bit about it, but you never said, oh man, I'm struggling or whatever. You might get a tear or two, but you got to pick up a phone. So you wipe your eyes off and you're on to the next call.
Right.
You don't
It,
have the luxury to step away.
no, you don't even get that breather of necessarily getting back in the car, even though you're going on to the next call as a cop, but getting back in that car, at least take a breather in between. You're right next, right up on the next call again.
Right. And if it's a
And
busy dispatch center, it's a particularly busy day, night, whatever, you're picking up phones. You
yeah.
have to. Or you're taking a traffic stop or you're doing whatever the officers need you to do. You just got to keep going.
And you're accumulating that stress, that trauma from not only the call, but from if it's a, officer shooting, involved shooting, things like that, you're adding both cumulatively adding all of that stress up and
Oh, yeah.
just tucking it back inside.
Absolutely. That's what you do with stress. You tuck it back in and you develop a nice little armor shield, your little crust, and that's what protects you.
Yeah.
Or
Now,
so you think.
yeah, I was going to say, so you think
Or so you think.
until something happens and it's your breaking point. But I really wanted to have you on here because I think it's amazing what you've been able to do since you retired. You had a plan. You
Yes,
weren't necessarily sure what that plan was going to look like, but you had a plan.
I did.
And
I
often, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say but I was only 55, I mean, I was younger. I knew I wanted to do something. I happened to have friends that were in the business and I loved real estate. It was one of my passions. I bought and sold with my husband several times and had investments. So I was kind of familiar with it and was encouraged to take the test. And I got my license a year before I retired. So I kind of had that battle plan, that strategy. Because if you know me, you know I'm not going to sit still long.
Right. And if you didn't have that plan, which is why it's so important to have a plan, have something lined up, not going fishing, not watching, eating bonbons on the couch, whatever you think you're going to do for months on end after you retire, having that plan, because otherwise it's going to sit with you and you have nowhere to go with your thoughts and what you didn't deal with. And you've talked about, well, why don't you tell us about that first year of retirement, even
Okay.
with a job?
Even with a job. I mean, I already had my license. I was selling, not a ton because I was still working 60-hour weeks, but I was trying to learn the business and be a realtor. So the day's finally coming. I'm going to retire. Oh, I can't wait to sleep through the night. Oh, I can't wait to have regular job. Oh, I can't wait not to have to wear a uniform. Oh, I can't wait. So excited about the future. And I retired and I got blindsided. It just all came down. How exhausted I was mentally, physically, how I was going to deal with things. I got very depressed. Um, I hated the world. I was angry. And even though I had a plan, even though I was trying very hard to execute that plan, I was lost. I'd spent all these years, 60 hours a week, beating down everything and raising kids and taking care of a mom and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it stopped. I was lost. I was very lost.
Was your family aware that this was going to happen?
No.
Because you weren't actually aware. So I guess that's kind of a silly question that I even asked.
Yeah,
Was
no, I don't think it's a silly question at all because they are so involved. I mean, I raised my kids. We still banter 10 codes back and forth. Like if I need to speak to them without, so we isolate for information 1061,
Yeah.
1043. I mean, we still, my kids grew up in that world. They were part of that world. They understand. They raised themselves. They did a beautiful job of raising themselves because I wasn't there. So, not because I didn't want to be.
I was just going to say you weren't there because you were providing for them.
Yes, true. But they had to be very independent because I got order outs, I got turnarounds, I got stuck, I got, and we had to punt a lot of the time being a single mom.
Yeah. Yeah. You think about that. You're adding a demanding job on as a single parent and being forced to leave your kids, forced because you have to work, regardless of what job that is. But
Right.
leaving your kids home and then listening to what you're hearing on the other line, over the line and not knowing the end result, you're thinking your kids are here by themselves. Here I am here. What if this happens at my house?
Oh, yeah. My
Because then,
kids know I freak out about stuff. Mom, you're so over the top. But I heard it all.
right. And you relate to some of that eventually,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Now, how long were you? Obviously, you had been remarried or married during the process of being a dispatcher.
Yes. So I got remarried just before I retired, two
Okay.
years before I retired. So a new marriage, a new house, because we moved after we got married. My kids were grown. I had one at home still. She was in college, but the other two were on their own. And so life was very different when I retired.
Did you prepare? Because I feel like, especially in real estate, as we talk to people preparing for retirement, downsizing, going into a new home, did you prepare in any way other than having your real estate license on what it would look like in your home?
Yes and no, because we were still getting used to the idea of being a different kind of unit. My daughter being in nursing school, my husband and I were newlyweds still. So we were still getting used to a lot of new.
And that has to be tough in itself. That adjustment of all that newness, being married, new house, that's stressful to begin with.
Right. Yes, it is. So let's add a little more to the
Right.
fire because that's what you do. That's what you do.
Because that's what you know, that chaos of that's how you feel. If I do this, I'll feel. If I do that, I'll feel. But it
Exactly.
as that's pulling parts away from you, how long did it take you to realize in that first year that something's not right?
It probably took 3 to 4 months of me. I feel like I was like a watch and I just went spring. I didn't have I was lost. I went from a team setting where I loved my coworkers and we supported one another and we sat next to each other and we experienced together, and that camaraderie that I know the officers and EMTs all understand,
Right.
that camaraderie that you have, to essentially running my own business and by myself the majority of the time, and trying to navigate that was was huge for me. All of a sudden my time was my own.
What do you do with that?
I didn't know what to do with it, you know. I'm like, oh, I got to have a little excitement. So I just kind of like broke. I just was exhausted.
Did you recognize that you broke before your family recognized, or even if I don't even know if your family recognized it?
I think my husband knew, but he didn't know how to verbalize it or what to say. But he knew that my personality towards the end had changed dramatically. I was very short. I wasn't me at all. I'm usually a happy person and love people and everything. And I was such a curmudgeon by the end that he will tell you my personality changed, but he really didn't know what to do with it. He
Well,
just,
that makes
what do you
sense
do with
though.
that? You
Yeah. Well,
know?
you don't prepare to have a personality change. You leave the job, but the job doesn't leave you, but you're still you. That personality is definitely a red flag if you're seeing that personality change. If you're feeling something different and isolated, and then having a job as self-employed, your only employee, where's the accountability for that? It's hard to accept. Yeah.
Yes,
Um, Counseling. Did you seek counseling?
I did that. I
Interesting.
did that. And I used to work on a psych unit. I have no problem with seeking counseling and I've seen a counselor previously and that kind of thing. I really didn't realize, only in hindsight did I realize how deep it went, how depressed I really got. I just was like, oh, I'm just tired. I just hate people. I'll be better tomorrow. I was so in it and just so in it that I couldn't see it. I couldn't step out of it.
And that's so true. I think when we get to that point, often we don't see it. We just think this is just I'm just stressed. Life stinks right now and I hate people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's
I'm just going through what I'm going through.
right. And so you didn't see counseling. Your husband recognized. What made you take that turn and change the mindset then?
I saw that I finally did recognize that I was pulling away from my family, from my children, from my grandchildren. And that's what saved me all those years were my kids. I was a single mom. And even though I would fight depression once in a while and say, I'm ready to give up, I couldn't. I couldn't. I had my kids to take care of.
Right.
So when I got to that point again, and I said, you know what? I'm just kind of ready to be done with this. I'm tired, like on the cellular level,
Right.
exhausted. Um, then it hit me hey, I'm back here again. I need to move out of this.
And what tools did you use to move out of that? Things that maybe can help our listeners? And if they recognize this and they start here, maybe it won't progress anymore.
Being around, making a concerted effort to be around people I loved and to be mindful about trying to do things I loved. I have an art degree. So drawing, even though it was just a little bit sketching once in a while, um, being grateful, speaking it out loud. I am thankful. I am grateful. Um, Thinking about what I really dreaming about what I have all this in front of me. What is my life going to look like? I can do this. I can make it different. And just inching every day, trying to make it a little bit better.
Changing that mindset.
Changing the mindset. It's huge.
And how long did it take you to get out of the funk, we'll call it?
We'll call it the funk.
Yeah.
I had another good 6 to 8 months where I felt like I could breathe.
And do you still have any flashbacks from calls? Does that stuff when you get really stressed, those triggers, do they come up for you?
Sometimes there'll be something that happens I'll think of a call or um things that have happened, and people always go, oh, 911, that had to be crazy, or they want to hear a story. No, I really don't want to tell you a story.
No,
You don't want to live with that, what I live with.
no, no, they don't. I think people get that impression. TV gives them the impression that they want to hear that stuff.
Yeah. And I have a couple of funny stories, and those are my go-tos. Okay,
Right.
you want to hear a story? Well, I can tell you about the time, but and I'll have a good laugh and be satisfied with that.
That's
You
good. That's a
know.
good way of approaching it because there's no way around that. Regardless, that's what people do. They're
Yeah.
drawn to that adrenaline of that call.
Yes, they're very curious.
They
How
are.
how does that work? What is it like? Oh, I never heard of somebody actually doing that before, you know. So they're
Then you
curious, and
haven't been
that's
in real
okay.
estate,
Yeah, be curious about real estate. I could tell you all about that.
right?
So,
You want to
yeah,
see what's in that
exactly.
house? No. But
Yeah.
you ironically did find a career after your career that does still keep you on your toes
Yes.
and still
And
gives you
that's
that
what,
adrenaline jump.
yeah, in a way, but I look at it this way. I spent all those years with people dealing with the worst day of their lives, or what they thought was the worst day of their lives. The screaming, the yelling, the complaining, the whatever it was. Now I spend my time helping people achieve the best day of their lives and their dreams. And that is worth a zillion bucks to me.
And that probably helps you each day stay out of the funk that
Yes.
we tend to go back to because it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what career you have. You people gravitate to negative,
Yeah, I mean, it's
unfortunately.
natural. It's a
Yeah,
natural response. And I'll see an engine and an ambulance and a chief response zooming down Weber Road, and I'll be like, "Oh, and it starts going through my head. Okay, well, this is the response. It must be this kind of call." And I just stop myself and I go, "You know what? You don't have to worry about that. The people that are there do a really, really good job. They're my friends. I know they got this. I don't have to."
do you get to stay in touch with them at all anymore?
Yeah, yeah, we stay in touch. We're Facebook friends, and we go to lunch once in a while, and we run into each other, and they've been clients, and oh
Good,
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Is
we're
that's like peer support then for you guys?
oh
'Cause
yeah.
they
And
don't
I
really
still
have
know
that.
the players, so they can come unload,
Good.
and I'm more than happy to listen because I get it.
So, with that being said, that makes a very good point because when you open yourself up to that, which is fantastic, that peer support is a must, but you're not hopping right back into it with them.
Right.
What do you do then to, because I'm a firm believer that anybody retired should be, that's who peer support should be,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can potentially process it and not jump right back into something and add to it. What do you do for yourself if somebody comes to you and, you know, you have that sit down? What do you do for yourself after that so you don't keep it with you?
I mentally release it. Literally put that problem in a box. I picture myself putting it in a box, closing the box and sending it off. That's it's to the ages. It's I've done what I can do for that person. I've let them unload, but I don't have to carry that.
Yes, I
It's
love
not
that.
my burden to carry.
It's not. And the more you practice that, even if you're still, employed as a dispatcher, as a first responder, it's not your burden to carry, and releasing it, putting it in a box and just throwing that box away is a releasing it. That they use that concept in hypnotherapy
Mm-hmm.
or EMDR where they are, you're putting it in a box.
Yeah,
You're not dealing with it right now, but you're going to let it go.
yes. You have to just compartmentalize it and put it away, not in you, somewhere else. Somewhere
Absolutely.
else. It goes somewhere else.
And that's giving you the tools to be able to even teach your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Helping them through. And I have a son who was in the military and was injured in Afghanistan and deals with PTSD and trying to help him with the tools and help him when he gets triggered and to understand that he's not alone, that there is hope and his ability to combat that. And he has been in therapy and that kind of thing. I mean, he's come a long way.
He's doing the work.
He's doing the work.
So even though, although I'm a big component of therapy for me, even though if you're not in therapy, if you're doing the work of changing your mindset in a healthy way with
Mm-hmm.
healthy coping skills, you can do it. You don't have to go to therapy for it. You can do it yourself by recognizing your triggers, by
Yes.
recognizing that in yourself and stop it right then and pull a tool out to help you. Are you teaching your grandkids tools like this?
They're still pretty young. I try to help them problem solve and learn how to problem solve, what if, and that kind of thing. And I think my kids do a good job of teaching them that stuff because that's how they were taught. So they're learning. Um, of course, part of me is grandma that, has to spoil them rotten. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of
Yeah, that would be.
but yeah, it's kind of hard. Not, I let their parents do a lot of that, but when one's overwhelmed or anxious or whatever, we try to work through it. We try to talk about what's going on in the perspective and how we can change that mindset. And what is it if we look at it from the left instead of the right, or from the top instead of the bottom?
That's an interesting concept because if we're teaching the kids that now, we're teaching them to process. And if your kids, if you don't mind me asking, because I just think
Mhm.
of like four walls of first responder homes are very all similar in many ways. So as a single parent, the kids already have a little struggle ahead of them, right? They're
Yeah.
already, it's a single parent home. It's you're both mom and dad. And then now you're both mom and dad and working 60 hours. Did the kids feel that you weren't there? Or if they'll even admit that to you now, I don't know, because my kids would admit it and I'm still here.
Um, yeah, yeah, they knew where I was. They knew what my job was. And there were many nights that they didn't sleep in their own beds because I was working afternoon shift for a long time and then I went to mids. So until they were able to be old, until they were old enough to stay at home, and I had a wonderful friend who lived right next door so they could actually go home and sleep and she was right there.
Right.
But they missed out on so much, but they had no idea because again, that was their life.
Did they, so having, did they act out at all? That's what I was trying, I guess, get out. Did they act out at all? Like,
One did. One
one
did.
did.
One was just, yeah, really hard to deal with. The other two were very laid back, understood, but they have a much more easygoing personality. My middle child was the cross to bear.
Just so you know, just because they were middle does not mean they were the bad child. I'm a
No,
middle child.
I'm just identifying
I know,
him.
I know, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But
That's not
those
middle child
kids,
syndrome,
there's always
guys.
one. There's always one.
There is always
Um,
one.
I was um he had a lot of problems. He had a lot of coping problems. He had a lot of anxiety, that kind of thing. And I wasn't in a position to help him as much as I wanted to because I just wasn't there. And he needed a regular life, and there was nothing regular about our life.
Right.
There
And
was very little consistency.
it's interesting that you say that because even then, so I obviously was not the cop. I wanted to be, but I was the one that was here and present. And I still wasn't able to teach them those skills. I thought I was, but not realizing how, you know, distant I was from myself for those years of them being kids. Like I forget they were kids. I forget they were little. I mean, I don't forget it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I miss so much. Like, oh, they're not going to even remember that because there was so much struggle, emotional struggle in our house that I didn't realize was there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And in hindsight, I really wish I would have gotten him more help. Um, Part of it was just being so overwhelmed
Yes.
with everything going on because I took care of my mom as well. My father died very suddenly, and so I was left to help with my mom. So I had 3 kids and a mom to take care of and a career that was very demanding. And I was going to do it all. I was going to take care of it. I'm super Nancy.
I had no
And
other option.
yeah, I was not one to reach out for help. Again, it was very stigmatized
Right.
to reach out. And, well, I've got this. I'm really good. I could do this all. That superwoman crap. That's crap. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with leaning into your community for help.
It takes a village to raise a family, especially as a single parent. It takes a little bit bigger village because the
Yeah.
attempt, even if their other parent is in their lives, it's still not a normal life. And then adding the first responder concept of we've taught you, we love you, and we're there for
Yeah.
you. That's what you need to know. That's all
Yeah.
you need to know. Well, now they don't even know how to process, the wind changing sometimes. It's like, what's happening? That wasn't
Yeah.
on my
Ooh.
schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you could give anybody who, first responder wise, who's currently still a first responder, any advice that you wish you would have done or did do while on the job to make it that just a little bit less stressful when you were coming home?
Um, Talk to somebody. It's not the stigma that you think it is. Lean into your friends, your family, your community, your brethren on the job. They're there for you. Your family, your community, friends, they love you. It's not it's not what you think. And it's okay to feel a certain way or to have a bad day. It's a tough job, and we're not made of stone.
No, we're not Medusa. I guess she
Not made of
turned people
stone.
to stone. wrong, wrong analogy. And then for those that are retiring, because you set yourself up for success, you weren't prepared for what came that first year. What is something that you learned from that somebody going into retirement, and when we're talking going in, like start planning this maybe a couple years before retirement
Mhm.
so
Yes.
that it doesn't hit you like a brick wall. What is something that you can give them?
Um, I think it will hit even the most prepared. It's going to hit. Understand that it's going to hit. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself grace, please, to be able to feel what you feel, to be able to navigate through to a new life, that there's going to be some bumps and turns, that if you work midnight shift for umpteen thousand years, you're not going to sleep right. You're just not. It's going to take a long time. I still don't sleep right. I've been out of the for 6 years. I still sleep terrible. So just understand. Just give yourself a little hug. It's okay. It's all okay.
How do you prepare the family for that?
To You got to educate the family that this any retiree is going to lose their way. There's going to be a bump in the road, even the best planned out plans, but helping your loved one to transition from this absolute chaotic, high stress lifestyle to something less chaotic and stressful. It's a process. And they need to understand that and be there for that family member
So
who's
and
retiring.
teaching them, because they're going to have feelings too, I believe. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I never got to that retirement side. I don't know. And I probably never will get to retire. So that's a whole other different thing.
That's a whole different ball game. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know that I could not sit well with myself if I was retired right now. There's still too much that I didn't deal with as a family member
Mm-hmm.
that I would not sit well. Um, Teaching them those tools in advance as you're going and helping them recognize that they are going to have these frustrations, these feelings that aren't theirs necessarily, especially
Yeah.
if you have not been taught that you're taking on whatever they're bringing home and you don't understand, you're not going to have any clue. It's just going to be kind of stirring that brew.
Oh, yeah. And there's going to be a lot that comes to the surface, like some pent up resentment and anger. Hey, you weren't there for me for that band concert when I wanted you to be there.
Right.
You were, you did this or that, or you were overprotective because you didn't have to be. We were okay. We were, all that stuff. There's going to be garbage to move through
Right. It's kind of
and
like hoarding.
understand it.
It's, I like how you said that. It's going to be garbage to move through. We're hoarding our lack of ability to process emotion.
Very well put. Yeah.
So as we start wading through, if you start wading through it before, you won't have to try and climb out of it to be saved.
I think just recognizing that you're going to have to climb through it, that it's not going to be an easy process. Retirement is not an easy process. You think, and like I thought, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to, do all this great stuff and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to be, the world's best realtor now and yada, 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 yada. And then reality sets in and like you're here and the adrenaline's not flowing and you don't have a clock to watch and you're not getting ordered out and your time becomes your own, and what do I do with it? I mean, even the best prepared, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, this is really different, and it takes some time to go through.
Do you think that you're finally there?
Yes, yes, definitely.
I
I
loved it.
have a very different life. And and here's how I knew. I kept a couple of shirts just for giggles. So, we get all kinds of stuff for Telecommunicator Week and all that. And I kept a couple of them because it had my name on it. I knew I was ready to give up that life when I finally cut out my name out of the shirt because, I don't want somebody thinking that they're, because that's how I think. I think like them.
I took all the patches off of stuff.
Took all the patches
Yeah.
off and threw them away. I was done with that life. And I'm completely okay. I'm thankful I did it. I appreciate what I learned from it, what I brought out of it. I feel like I helped people.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, but I'm done with it. I can fully give myself to being a realtor, to being a wife, to being a grandma, to being all the things, other things that I love to do. And it's just one part of my life. And it was hard to get there. It took me a long time.
I'm so grateful to hear that you've been able to do that because, well, when we first met, I don't even know, I think it was after Ken died that you even brought it up that you were dispatched. I never would have had any idea of that prior.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a conversation that we had, shortly after.
I think we were in leadership together and
Yes.
we were talking about prior lives.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's what brought it up. You're right. And to see the growth, even over this past few years that I've known you, that there is a different light in you that I've
That's
recognized.
interesting.
Yeah. It's a lighter, brighter light. And that's growth. That's mindset growth for you. And it's a beautiful thing. And I appreciate seeing that it can happen because still in retirement, for what people need to understand that if you haven't dealt with it, and this goes for family members too, if you haven't dealt with it while you're on the job, you're not going to deal with it outside the job. And if you think that you're going to retire and just sit there and fish or, sit on the back porch with your pellet gun, shooting the voles, drinking a beer, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor who did that. So whatever that looks like for you, that's a small amount of time. And you're sitting there by yourself, much like getting in your car by yourself, much like having the headset on by yourself, whatever that looks like for you and your family. If you don't do something for yourself to heal that and be prepared, you will not be able to enjoy life the way Nancy, the way you are.
You have to do the work.
Yes.
You have to feel it, and it's okay to feel it, and then it's okay to put it away.
Yes. Because suicide is real in retirement.
Often, absolutely.
We hear about it all the time, unfortunately. And it doesn't have to be period. We're not going to save everybody, but seeing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, there's a lifting of boxing it up, throwing it away, and closing that chapter in a healthy way.
Yes, it can be done. It can be done. And you will feel better. And you will feel better.
That's so inspiring for me to hear that. That gives me, I know it can happen, but it gives me a lot of hope to hear it out of somebody who's accomplished that. Not just like a goal setting accomplished. You've accomplished it.
I'm on the other side.
Yes.
I am on the other side.
Yes.
And it's a good place to be.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad I was able. I hope I can help just even one person.
You will
understand. It's there.
It's there. It can happen. That's my goal. I see that it's happening for the family side, guys, as we're talking. I see the work that I'm peeling away that I didn't know was there for 25 years. So you think about it, you're in that as family. It takes a little while to peel it away.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yes, it does. It is possible.
And you wake up with a smile on your face every once in a while.
Yeah. Most days.
Yeah.
Most days.
It's exciting. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Christy. I enjoyed speaking to you.